Now, Black Adam in the comics, he's a pretty brutal guy, no doubt about it. You get stuff like him just grabbing a guy on both ends like this and just pulling him apart. Okay, just it's a bad guy, of course. He kills him though by just ripping him apart in two. And in this movie, he doesn't quite do anything as brutal, but he does kill. Okay, it's important that you guys know that going in, he does kill quite a lot of people actually. Yeah. Hey guys, Ken here from Malaysia. Thank you for joining me for the channel's review of the Black Adam movie. Black Adam stars Dwayne Johnson as the title character and is now playing in screens all across Malaysia. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the plot because you guys still need to go watch the movie yourselves. But the whole story, in fact, takes place in this one fictional part of the DC universe, this fictional nation called Kandak. And Black Adam is this ancient champion of the people who is required to be resurrected to save it currently because the whole country is being overrun by mercenaries, people who are there seeking to exploit it, and the population is being persecuted, and they need a champion. They need somebody to come back and basically bring it back, bring the nation back to its days of glory. And I would have to say that The Rock is actually very effective in the role. Okay, first of all, he doesn't quite resemble the comic book Black Adam, because that guy's got hair. Okay, at least when I used to read the comics, he had hair. Okay, but maybe this is like after years and hairlines receding and stuff like that. So but he's got the physicality, that's for sure. He's got the look of the character, and I think that Dwayne Johnson playing this role, he's definitely the best part of the movie because he's very committed. I mean, you can see that on screen. However, the show is in fact bogged down, I think, by way too many side characters. Okay, for one thing, you get a lot of additional DC heroes. Now, normally this would be really exciting. I think, back in those days when we watched a superhero movie, we would be like really lucky if we got like just one cameo appearance from another superhero. It's like two heroes for the price of one. But in this one, it's like they imported like an entire new comic book team. Okay, it's like you get introduced to Black Adam, and you also get introduced to the Justice Society, which is like this whole other super team that's also just shoved into this movie. And you get new characters like Hawkman, Dr. Fate, these two millennials, Cyclone, Atom Smasher, and I think that all of them were pretty okay in their roles. Pierce Brosnan, Dr. Fate, definitely, he's James Bond, so he's probably the most accomplished actor there. I would say that him and Hawkman were pretty much very effective in committing to their performances and stuff like that. And you got people like Cyclone and Atom Smasher as part of the Justice Society. They looked like they could have been just taken off from a TV show, But like I said, none of them really had any really bad performances. It's just that I don't think that they really stood out all that much. And in fact, the purpose for them being in this movie is just to be sort of like a superpowered component for Black Adam to be up against. Okay, so you need to have these sequences there where he's fighting superheroic forces, and that's why you need these additional heroes there. I would say that if you took out the Justice Society from the entire movie, I don't really see how they would have added much to the plot anyway. They're basically just there to be either to take a punch or to throw a punch. Now this thing, it's not being directed by Zack Snyder, but it's got his stamp all over it. Okay, like all the way back since 300, the whole style of slowing down the action and then speeding it up again. Everything's just captured in a lot of slow motion frames, and in some ways, it's great because I guess it's still maybe like the go-to way for filmmakers to want to convey everything that's happening in the shot. But you get a little bit too much of it in this one, I think. And there's also a lot of use of music, okay, which is always great. I mean, I love, having, especially alternative rock and stuff like that playing in a movie that I'm watching. And this is actually also, I think, employed a lot in the Justice League Zack Snyder cut. You get a lot of sequences where there's music being used. Sometimes the music fits what's happening on screen. More often than not, it's not. Okay, I mean, it's just supposed to be something like a counter to whatever you're watching. And in this one, there are a couple of music, I would say, sequences, interludes, especially in the beginning. And somewhere like after the first hour, I would say that it kind of stops. Okay, it's like the trend was that from the start of the movie you get like all these sequences, and there'd be like a sequence with an alternative rock song or some kind of music playing in the background. But I think that somewhere after the first hour, it kind of just dissipates. So I wonder what happened with that. So it felt a bit uneven to me. The Rock plays a very different kind of character in this one. I think he's different from what you normally see him as on screen. He's more brooding, that's for sure. Okay, and there's a lot of sequences of him just sort of like just floating around. He's just like floating. The camera just captures him floating like that, and he's just like overlooking Kandak and just like thinking about stuff. But you do get those moments of him, of course, making wisecracks, and there's a lot of black humor in this one. Definitely, very dark humor, and like I mentioned at the start of the video, he's not really a good guy. Okay, so he's got no sort of like feelings about taking a life and stuff like that. He just does it. Okay, he kills a lot of people in this one, and I think that comic book fans will be satisfied with this portrayal of him because it's pretty much exactly like how he is in the comics. Okay, in the comics he's just brutal, and he kills everyone, women too. Okay, there's this one issue where he straight up just punches his fist into this female superhero's chest. Okay, like the fist goes out, like out the back of her chest. Okay, and he just like does it just like that, and it's brutal. He's always been depicted that way in this movie. In fact, there's a scene where he sort of like causes two helicopters to smash against each other, and I was thinking, hey shit, one of those pilots was a woman, so he like just straight up killed her, like just freaking like cause her to get blown up, right? So he kills, okay, right, women, men, doesn't seem to make a difference to him. So, but in that sense, I think that fans will find it, perhaps satisfying in that they retain that aspect of him, okay, from the comics, in that he's basically just a brutal, murdering, probably borderline sociopathic superhero slash supervillain. The effects in this movie were, to me, they were sort of like all over the place, okay, because you do get some pretty good sequences. Now, I watched this in the IMAX screen here in Malaysia. Of course, when it comes to big budget blockbuster productions, it's become the norm. Especially for me, I always try to make it a point to watch it on the IMAX screen, okay, because it's got to be blown up. You can't have this thing happening on like a miniature size screen. And especially these days, ticket prices are just shooting up through the roof, man. So if you're gonna pay for something, might as well make sure it's on the big screen. And I would say that the presentation of the film on the screen was great. There's a lot of really nice visual touches to it, and a lot of sequences. Actually, the action is very well conveyed. There's a lot of action, by the way. The action never stops, man. It's like from the time the movie starts, pretty much seems like it was just one flying fist after the other, all the way right down to the finale. And there is some semblance of a plot there. Definitely not enough of it, but they managed to squeeze in some interesting points there, especially when it comes to Black Adam's origin and stuff like that. But the action is pretty much just from start to finish. And the effects, like I said, they were pretty much, not really. Some scenes really felt a little bit unfinished to me. Especially, the finale. There was this huge action scene, a battle there with the villain, and the villain just looked like crap. Okay, because the villain is just entirely a CGI concoction. Okay, it's just like crafted from a computer, and that was disappointing. I wish that just gone with something that looked more like a practical makeup effects, like an actor. But this guy is just like he looks like he's like something like straight out of a, he's battling this sort of like a half man, half demon type character, something that looks like it came out from a 1980s thrash metal album cover, okay, basically that. And okay, I'm not going to give away too much about it, but the villain is in fact a character, an obscure character from the comics, but it's just that it was created entirely using CGI, and the CGI translation was just pretty bad, and especially when he spoke, okay, it was so obvious they were using a voiceover for the conversations. And that just sort of like threw you out of the movie. I felt that when the main villain is just somebody that's not even that strong enough, you don't feel any kind of like connection or threat from it. You just basically tune out. And I think that was probably the main drawback of the movie, because anything that happened before that, you had moments of real entertainment, and it was all building up towards a finale, and I felt that the finale just didn't deliver. Now this movie is basically just what it is. It's popcorn entertainment, and I think that if you're just going in with that purpose, and you got yourself a big bowl of popcorn, a large soda, and you're just there to be entertained for maybe about 2 hours, I think it delivers. Okay, because like I said, the investment that you get from whatever's presented to you visually is frankly quite stunning. But in terms of what the movie is supposed to represent, because there's all this communication coming out about how it's supposed to represent like the first in a new phase for the DC movie universe, and in terms of that, I felt that it was a little bit of a stumbling block. I mean, as a fan, and full fans out there, if you want to think back and remember this as the starting point for the new DC movie universe, I think that it feels a little bit disappointing, because the whole tone of the movie is just completely, it's uneven. And of course, there's a huge cameo that everybody's talking about. I mean, it's been all over the internet. I can just talk to you about it right now. It wouldn't be a spoiler, because The Rock himself talked about it even before the movie came out. But so yeah, when that scene happens and you get this character appearing, it's a huge moment. Definitely, if you just take it for what it is, it's great. But at the same time, I kind of felt that based off against everything that you saw before that, it just felt like it lacked the impact it was supposed to have. Now, I was taking a look at the box office, and it seems that the market's just overcrowded with horror content at the moment. I know it makes sense because it's Halloween, okay? But at the same time, it's also, I think, one of the first years I've seen where there's so much quality horror content out there, especially including stuff that's playing in the US and other markets in the world which hasn't made it down here to Malaysia. Stuff like, I think, Barbarian, stuff like definitely Terrifier Part 2, that's never gonna play here in Malaysia at all. But there's a lot of really great horror content out there, but not really enough of those big budget, mega scale blockbusters. So this one's one of them, that's for sure. Now, speaking as somebody who's consumed a lot of movie content, especially superhero products over the last couple of decades, I would say that my personal rating for this would be somewhere in the region of 5.5 out of 10. Maybe inching towards a 6, okay? But that's just my personal viewpoint. Like I said, it's still an entertaining thrill ride. Okay, if that's all you're looking for, then that's what you're gonna get, okay? So guys, let me know what you guys thought of Black Adam. Drop your comments below. I want to hear from you guys, and I'll catch you guys again real soon with more content. Take care out there. Oh, there was this one sequence that kind of stood out to me, and I laughed when I saw it, because there was this huge fight scene that's happening on the streets, and one of the stores there in the background, okay, it said KFC, okay, and then if you look closely, it said Kandak fried chicken, I just laughed. That was it. Pretty clever, right?